Draw! Welcome to Untap Upkeep. I'm Jason, and I think Mo is the cutest, goodest little boy.
And I'm Nick, and the Orzhov taxed my income. Our flavor text of the day comes from Corset 2014. The name of it is Pillarfield Ox.
You old immobile clod! If I could stuff your doltish head with knowledge, I'd do it, just so someone else could fully comprehend what your stubbornness has cost me. Bruce Tarl, Goma Fada Nomad.
Nice. So today we are going to talk about deck archetypes.
Oh, deck archetypes, yeah.
Correct. But Mo is the goodest boy.
Yes.
Deck archetypes basically explain what your deck does. It's kind of a tagline to show what exactly you're trying to do.
In essence, an archetype is what type of cards you're putting into your deck, and how does it win?
Gives it a little bit of a way to explain it to someone in an easy fashion rather than saying, oh, my deck likes to do this and that and this and that and this. It's just saying, oh, my deck does tokens, or my deck plays a lot of these creatures, or my deck mills, etc. We'll go over those with you. There are 8 that we'd like to highlight. So out of the 8 archetypes that we've chosen to highlight this time around, we're going to talk about 4 of them for time's sake, so that we can go a little bit more in depth with each of the commanders we chose, so that you can see a little bit of the difference on how decks are built.
Hit them with the 4 like Austin Matthews.
Thanks for that. The first archetype we'd like to talk to you about is Enchantress. So Enchantress likes to play a lot of enchantments, as the name states. Yeah. And get advantage based on playing enchantments. And the way that a deck gets advantage from that depends. We're going to talk about 3 different commanders that encompass 3 similar but also quite different play styles.
Very different ways to win the game, but still using similar cards.
Not Mowu.
Not Mowu.
Unfortunately.
Enchantments would be kind of fun.
That'd be kind of fun.
All right. So our first commander that we'd like to talk about is Tuvasa the Sunlit. So what Tuvasa really likes to do is to generate advantage off of playing enchantments. That drawing a card the first time you play each enchantment is something that's really, really key to the deck, to be able to kind of churn through your deck so you can hit more enchantments to draw more cards, all the while making Tuvasa bigger. And commander damage is something that's really big with this Tuvasa deck, whether it's just by playing just normal enchantments or even equipping her with some auras.
Auras are fun.
Auras are really fun, not Aura of Silence.
Debatable. I think it's fun. But yeah, Tuvasa likes to kind of do a little bit of a Voltron-y thing. We'll talk about Voltron in a little bit. But likes to play a lot of enchantments, as the name states, but generally to get card advantage to pump Tuvasa and have a threat on the board.
Exactly.
The next commander we'd like to talk about is Karametra, God of Harvests. Karametra is an enchantment creature. She's one of the gods from Theros that cares about devotion. And what she says is that when you play creatures, you grab basic lands, right?
Yep, you get forest or plains.
And put it on the battlefield. So Karametra likes to play a lot of the
enchantment creatures.
Well, also the cards where the archetype comes from, the Enchantress cards, which are creatures that say whenever you play an enchantment, you draw a card. So Karametra likes to kind of ramp and just slowly take control of the game by playing creatures, drawing cards, getting lands, playing creatures, playing enchantments, and just having an overwhelming amount of advantage over your opponents. Whereas maybe they might be stuck on 5 lands, 6 lands, and you have 12, and you have enchantment pieces that say they can't play things, or that you get extra mana, or that you're drawing cards every turn, extra cards, extra advantage, etc.
And with Karametra, you'll find that you can get some really, really big turns by just playing creatures, getting lands, untapping those lands, playing more enchantments, playing creatures, drawing cards.
I think you get the point.
You can do some ridiculous things with Karametra.
Yeah. She's also indestructible, and isn't a creature unless you have the devotion, which is really nice.
It makes it so that once you play it, it kind of just sticks.
It's hard to remove, yeah. Our last chosen commander for the Enchantress archetype is Siona.
Captain of the Pylians.
Captain of Pythagoras.
No triangles here.
So I actually have this deck built. Siona cares about auras specifically. First thing, when she enters the battlefield, she lets you dig on the top couple cards for an aura, which is really, really nice. But she cares about putting auras on your creatures, because whenever you put an aura on, when an aura becomes equipped to a creature, or attached to a creature, I guess is the better terminology. Whenever an aura becomes attached to a creature, you make a 1/1 human token. Now, Siona has a lot of synergy with, auras, but cards like Flicker Form there's an obvious one here, right?
Shielded by Faith.
So Shielded by Faith is an enchantment that gives a creature indestructible, but whenever another creature enters the battlefield, it can auto-equip to that creature. With Siona, that makes infinite 1/1s. By enchanting Siona, it makes a 1/1. The 1/1 enters the battlefield, the enchantment slides over to it, then makes another one, which then it slides over to that, and you just get infinite 1/1s. Now, they don't have haste, but having infinite creatures...
It basically just wins you the game.
Yeah.
Especially because if someone board wipes you, but you still have the enchantment, you just play another 1/1. And replay another creature and get infinite 1/1s again.
Or what's that one enchantment from Guilds of Ravnica that makes the angels instead?
Divine Visitation.
If you have Divine Visitation, then you get infinite 4/4 Flying Vigilance tokens. Or, if you have Ashnod's Altar, you get infinite mana. Or Phyrexian Altar, you get infinite colored mana. There's just a lot you can do to play around with it.
Siona really likes to generate creature advantage, all while making one really big creature or a lot of somewhat big creatures with your auras.
Yeah, and all of these decks do run the Enchantress creatures. We'll put those on the screen in a little bit, but they want to draw cards for paying the investment on having just something on the board. Not all enchantments do something immediately. A lot of the time, an enchantment has to sit around, so like a lot of the seals that have to sacrifice, or like
Aura of Silence
that just sits there and taxes your opponents. So maybe you don't get an immediate gain off of them, but they will do stuff for you later. So when you do have the enchantresses on the board, then you are getting immediate things. You're turning them into card draw.
For sure. So our next archetype that we want to talk about is tokens. And the way that tokens work is there's a lot of cards that allow you to make a token, whether it's a 1/1 elf or a 10/10 Eldrazi, you make a token. And token decks like to make a lot of tokens and kind of just flood the board with either a bunch of little creatures or a bunch of big creatures. Each token deck kind of utilizes tokens in their own unique way, but most of them involve just amassing a giant army of stuff. And so the first token commander we want to talk about is Girrid Conclave Exile. This is one of the commander precons, which was centered around the populate mechanic, which makes tokens. And so the way that Girrid works is you want to get a big token of something. I mentioned a 10/10 Eldrazi. Desolation Twin will make you a 10/10 Eldrazi.
Oh, I hate that.
And all you need to do is get one of those, swing with Girrid, and you get another one. And then you can get some really, really, really big boys.
Giant Adaphage.
Yeah, and so Girrid just wants to flood the board, not for the sake of flooding the board, but also for the sake of just getting giant, giant creatures on the board and creating kind of this wall of creatures that can't really be stopped.
Yeah, it's very difficult to deal with once Girrid starts rolling. I know that I've played against Jason before and with his Girrid deck, and he'll sit there, he'll play Girrid. He'll maybe have like a 1/1 or a 3/3, because it enters with a 3/3.
It enters with a 4/4.
4/4. It enters with a 4/4. So that's really good. Strong. And I'll sit there going, okay, when is the 9/9 coming? When is the 8/8 coming? Because he'll swing and, maybe he doesn't hit it, but then it's not a big deal, and then you realize it is a big deal because he's got 6 4/4s on turn 7.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what he has. I don't know what he's going to do with him.
And like big anthems, like just any anthem card or like Overwhelming Stampede really are kind of how this deck finishes off. Just amassing 20 tokens, turning them all into just big beaters.
I feel like that's most token decks, but in this deck it's more scary because you don't have to have as many. You just have to have big boys.
Exactly.
The next token deck we want to talk about is Brutaclad. I mentioned that on one of our previous episodes for like the budget challenge. Brutaclad was one of the additional commanders in one of the... I think it was the Saheeli deck from 2018. So Brutaclad Telcor Engineer is it commander, blue-red, likes to make tokens. And that's kind of an uncharacteristic thing in those colors.
And not just creatures.
And not just creatures, yeah. It likes to care about any token. If they're creatures, they gain haste. But if they're not, doesn't really matter. You get to play things like Saheeli's Artistry or things that make tokens of either your stuff or of other people's stuff, and then when you enter combat, you can change every token into a copy of that token. Mm-hmm. Now, this is really fun when you get stuff like
Power Stone
Shard, which we also mentioned, or like Lull Mage Mentor, which is a merfolk that says tap 7 merfolk to counter a spell, and then if you counter a spell, then you draw a card. There's a lot of fun ways to play with it. You can get really tricky with it.
Handwear Garrison.
Handwear Garrison is absolutely my favorite card in the deck, besides Molten Birth, but
I'm not getting into this.
But the deck has a lot of toys that you can play around with that you might not find in a Gearhead deck, because Gearhead is mostly a creature-focused thing that likes to populate those, whereas in Brutaclad, I can play Brass's Bounty, make a bunch of treasure tokens, and then suddenly I have 20 Wormcoil engines.
Yep. And that's really kind of the draw of Brutaclad, is that it can do kind of anything at any time, and it's very unpredictable to play against.
Yeah, I might have 5 1/1 tokens, and then suddenly they're all mana. Then the next turn, they're all
Handwear
Garrisons, or War Chief Giants, or whatever. It's kind of a pick and choose what you like, and I mean 7 dwarves is a stupid one.
Yeah. There's more than 7.
If you want to be really, really fun with it, you can put Helm of the Host on Brutaclad and make infinite Brutaclads. That's a funny one.
That's so weird.
But it's pretty much up to you. So you get the flexibility there, while also kind of being put into a challenge on how do I make tokens work in Izzet colors when I don't have access to green and white, which are the prime token colors.
And I think that's part of the draw of Brutaclad, is you're kind of escaping the color pie, but still playing a playable deck.
Our last commander is Reese the Redeemed. This one is probably the number 1 token commander.
This is the go-to popular one that anyone will tell you.
It's a hybrid Selesnya, so green or white.
One mana.
It's 1 mana, yeah. Which is, 1 mana commanders are just crazy, because even if you hit a land drop, which, I don't know which one of you is keeping a 0 lander, but...
And if you don't have a Soul Ring in hand, I'd play a Soul Ring over Reese.
You sure? Really?
We'll see.
But I guess that's because you never get Soul Ring.
Exactly.
But no, Reese the Redeemed has 2 activated abilities. The first one makes a 1/1 token. The second one basically doubles your tokens.
It doubles your tokens.
It doubles your tokens. So Reese kind of can do either one of those strategies, except not what Brutaclad can do with non-creatures, but basically you can go with a bunch of big boys, you can go with a bunch of little 1/1s and run people over with your tiny army. You can kind of do whatever you want. You can go a little bit into Elf Tribal, which is our next topic. We're going to be talking about Tribal.
Yeah, Reese really cares about how can I make as many tokens as I can, as fast as I can, and how can I generate enough mana to activate Reese's abilities as many times as I possibly can. Because even though if it taps him to do it, you can untap shenanigans. So having a lot of mana is also key to really making this deck run.
Also, having a 1-drop commander is just flexible. You don't even have to build him tokens, but he is just objectively strong as a token.
For sure, yeah.
Because if he dies, the tax isn't even that bad. Then he just costs as much as a normal commander, being 3 mana.
And it's once you're starting the engine going with Reese, it's people can't really stop you, especially because Reese is so cheap. People will play a board wipe and that'll stop you, but it's you're not going to be the target of the table because you're going to be doing what you're going to be doing, and no one can really stop you.
Our third choice for deck archetypes is Tribal. So Tribal is a deck archetype that likes to play a lot of the same creature type, whether that be anything from the popular elves to weirds or crabs, or you have it's endless. You have the option to build pretty much whatever tribe you feel like. It might get difficult when there's only 4 of a tribe.
Mowu Tribal?
Mowu is not a creature type.
Dang it.
But you can do pretty much whatever you want with that, and each creature type generally comes with a theme on how they like to play. So our first chosen commander is Edgar Markov. I'm sure you've probably heard of Edgar Markov. He came out in Commander 2017 with all of the tribal decks, and he is very, very strong. So he's a vampire commander. He likes you to play vampires whenever... He has an Eminence ability, which means that...
You don't even have to play him.
You don't even have to play him. You get the effect if he's in the command zone or on the battlefield, right?
Yep.
So whenever you cast a vampire creature spell, you make a 1/1 vampire token. So Tribal has a characteristic of wanting to play a lot of creatures as opposed to less creatures like you would in another deck. So you generally have a little bit of a toolbox on your creatures. They also have what's called a Lord, named after Lord of Atlantis from Merfolk. A Lord is a creature that pumps up other creatures of that type. So I can't think of a vampire lord off the top of my head, but they all do something similar. So
there's one in Orzhov, and I can't remember it. It's killing me.
It came out in Ixalan, right?
Yeah.
Or Rivals.
I think
it was
one
Rivals.
of those.
But yeah, so basically an example would be like a 2-drop vampire that says all other vampires you control get +1/+1. And it's permanent. As long as the creature's on the board, it's almost like it's an enchantment, but it itself is generally the creature type, which adds to your collection.
Yeah. And basically the way that Tribal works, especially with Edgar Markov, is not only are you playing vampires, but you're also playing cards that care about vampires.
Icon of Ancestry,
Yeah, it's
Herald's
like-
Horn.
You, cast this only if you have 5 vampires on the battlefield, or stuff like that. It's
Or-
just, cards that, or, something with X. where
Tap
X is
5
the
vampires,
equal
or
to the number of vampires.
Sacrifice a vampire.
That's what Tribal does. Is it just plays cards that are the creature type and cards that care about the creature type, whether how many or what they are.
Yeah. So like we mentioned, creature types like to care about certain themes. Vampires like to do stuff with having flyers or taking control of creatures,
Draining
life, gaining life.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the shell of Edgar Markov.
I want to suck your blood.
Plus, Halloween themed. Perfect.
Spooky.
Edgar Markov likes to... It has the right colors for what the deck likes to do. It's in red, white, and black, Mardu colors. So it likes to have the removal colors. It has the life gain colors. It has the sacrifice colors. It has kind of the whole package. The next commander we'd like to talk about is Azuri Renegade Leader, which is an elf tribal commander. Now, Azuri is also a really strong commander. Azuri is in 1 color. He's a mono green elf commander, as opposed to Azuri Claw Progress, which is a completely different deck, but can also be built for elf tribal. Azuri says that you can tap a green to regenerate another target elf, which makes your elves really hard to kill. Or you can tap 5 mana, 2 and 3 green, to give all your elves +3/+3 and trample until end of turn, and this effect does not tap Azuri to use. So, elves like to generate a lot of mana. Llanowar elves, Priest of Titania, all the elves that tap for mana, and then basically you play all the stuff that makes elf tokens, you get your whole swarm of elves, you play Azuri, they're impossible to kill because they regenerate, and then you just pump 15 mana into Azuri and give them all +9/+9 and trample, and you swing and you win the game.
And that's what Azuri will do. Azuri is basically just overwhelming Stampede on a stick, really.
Oh, for sure. Definitely it can be really oppressive because elves get off the ground really, really fast with having all the mana dorks, and you don't really need mana rocks either, so you can slow other people down with artifact hate if you want to, and elves are just a powerhouse.
And the way that vampires try to win is, how can I play the best vampires and get the best value out of playing the best vampires? Where Azuri's like, I don't care, as long as it's an elf, let's just try and amass as many elves as I can and win the game as fast as I can.
It's a 2-drop elf, I'm putting it in. It's a 1-drop elf that taps for colorless, doesn't matter, I'm playing mono green, throwing it in. So there's a little bit of a difference there in deck building choices. Our last chosen commander is General Tazri. General Tazri is a commander that cares about allies. Now, allies are kind of a weird creature type because allies encompass a lot of different themes. They do kind of whatever you want to do. Some of them are really bad. Some of them are amazing. So what General Tazri likes to do, so General Tazri is 5 colors because of the color identity on the activated ability, but to cast it, it only uses white. Tazri tutors for an ally in your deck, so General Tazri can be very, very competitive in that you can do combos because there are ally combos that just win the game on the spot. I don't know them off the top of my head because there are so many allies.
There's a lot of allies.
It's kind of choose what combo you like. But allies care about other allies, and they give you bonus effects for how many allies you have, or
whenever one enters,
or whatnot. But some of the combos you do with General Tazri are like you play General Tazri, you have infinite mana, you sack General Tazri, you play General Tazri again, you tutor for another ally, you tutor your whole combo, you play your combo, and you win with allies.
And the way that Tazri works compared to the other tribal decks we talked about is more about timing. Rather than I'm going to play all my allies and win the game and do whatever, I'm going to play the right ally at the right time and win the game. And I think that's what's very unique about Tazri. It's that it is tribal, but it's more about timing than anything else.
Definitely a slow advantage, kind of control the board as opposed to make the board, I guess.
Exactly.
Is a good distinction.
You're reactionary as opposed to setting the tempo.
Also, General Tazri's activated ability pumps creatures, so if you need to win off of combat damage, that works too. It's just a little bit more difficult because it takes 5 colors to do it.
Absolutely, yeah. Our next topic is Voltron, and Voltron is kind of a deck that cares about assembling a lot of equipment or enchantments onto one creature and making that creature really big and just one-shotting somebody with it.
Hence the name Voltron. Is you want to, you're assembling one big thing from a lot of pieces. Voltron can go either enchantment, like auras, or artifacts, like equipment. And
yeah.
It doesn't really matter, really. Either one is considered a Voltron deck. It just depends on which one you're really focusing on. You can do both.
And there's a deck in here that easily will do both.
But we'd like to talk about a few of those with you.
So the first commander we want to talk about is Kemba Ka Regent. One of the people in our play group plays this deck, and
Tim.
It is really, really scary. So what Kemba Ka Regent does is Kemba cares about equipment. At the beginning of your upkeep, you make a cat for each equipment that is on Kemba.
A 2/2 cat.
A 2/2 cat. And a Johnny's Primate that doesn't get bigger. And is not as cute as Mowu.
So a bear.
Yeah, basically.
Except it doesn't cost 2 mana.
Yeah.
Okay, we're complicating things.
Okay. But so Kemba, you want to just play as many equipment as you can, and try and play maybe even cheaper equipment.
Like Kite Shield or
Lightning Greaves even.
Bone Saw.
Yeah. And to kind of just assemble Kemba into something really big and something that's honestly indestructible.
It's pretty scary.
Because you don't even really need to attack with Kemba until you can win the game with Kemba. Because you're just amassing this giant army until you've put like 15 equipment on Kemba, and it's just crazy.
Yeah, and it's difficult because Kemba's hard enough to deal with being like 17-25 or even a 5-10.
Yeah.
Like that's really difficult to deal with.
It's a big creature.
And generally that's like on turn 5.
Yeah.
Because all the equipment that you played are
already there. Put Kemba out.
Yeah. But on top of that, then let's say you have creatures on the board and then they kill them. Then next turn you just make more, and it's
many cats.
Hard to deal with because now even if Kemba swings and she doesn't have vigilance, you have an army of blockers that just let you sit back and say, "Yeah, I'm not going to take that from you," and it's honestly kind of oppressive.
It's very oppressive,
and it's surprising in mono white too because mono white is typically a color that struggles with card draw and ramp, but Kemba is a 3-mana commander and. I mean, equipment can be anywhere from free, like super cheap, to being, 6 mana or whatnot.
And equipment can do anything. Equipment can draw you cards and get you lands and can kind of fill the pieces in for doing the things that white can't do.
Yeah, so our friend Tim, like Jason mentioned, that built this deck, he kind of went in between Voltron and Tribal. He built Cats and Swords.
cats and swords.
Where a majority of his equipment are swords, so he plays all of the protection swords like Sword of Feast and Famine, etc. And then he plays a cat tribal synergy, so that when he does have his big board, he still profits off of that too.
Exactly. Kemba is just such a good card.
Our second choice for Voltron is Ruhan.
Ruhan of the Fomori.
Now, Ruhan...
It is a random it's a random number generator on a stick. He attacks each combat, and he attacks randomly.
And he has to.
And he has to attack. But he is a giant creature for what
it's like a 7/7, right?
Something like that. He is just a ridiculously big creature for the mana that you're putting into him.
And the random attack is supposed to be like a downside to it. Mm-hmm. However, when you're playing and you have this giant beater on the board and you go, oh, who's it gonna swing at? I don't know. I'm not making the choices. What that does is it does two things. One is it's scary. It's terrifying.
It's very
because
scary.
commander damage is a real thing in Voltron decks. It's generally how you win.
Yeah, it's the main win con.
And you're sitting there at the table going, is it gonna hit me? And then the second part of that is because it's random,
you have no guilt.
Yeah, you have no guilt. You're not choosing the person. It's all left up to the RNG of it. And
you're not responsible for the actions of the Ruhan.
Yeah, and on one hand, it does make Ruhan a target, but on the other hand, like I'm not gonna be mad at someone because they had to swing at me by a random chance. I mean, it might suck, but they didn't choose to do it.
Yeah, but then once you're sitting at like 16 commander damage,
then it's a problem.
Then you just have to kill Ruhan anyways, no matter who it attacked.
Yeah, and sometimes I mean leaving Ruhan on the board kind of adds it makes the game faster, because if you let Ruhan swing maybe twice or three times, you have like a 2 out of 3 chance that you're just going to
straight up kill somebody.
Not even straight up kill somebody, but as a player against Ruhan, if I go, yeah, I'm going to let it sit here for a little bit, it might hit Jason, it might hit, the person across from me at the table, and it does, then effectively what I did is I saved my kill spell, they took 7 damage, and then when it swings at me, then I can kill it.
Exactly.
But as the Ruhan player, you don't really care. You just want him to smack hard, smack fast.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And then the last commander we want to talk about is Ural the Miststalker. And this one cares more about the aura side of Voltron. It gets +2/+2 for each aura that you control on attached to it. And it has Shroud, basically.
Yeah, it has
hexproof. Sorry.
It has the longer worded hexproof.
I don't know why I said Shroud.
Well, he's the Mist Stalker, so I mean, technically it's like a shroud.
Yeah, and so it's honestly insane how hard it is to deal with Ural when it's out.
Yeah, I mean, you almost have to just make them sacrifice.
Yeah, or board wipe.
Or board wipe. But if you play auras that make him indestructible or can't be sacrificed, then what do? You can't touch it.
You pray.
And Ural, however you want to say it, is very difficult to interact with as a deck, because the only thing you can really target for targeted removal is the auras. So you just have to take away the scariest aura.
But
so
when
let's
there's
say
9 of them.
Yeah.
Then
it's you have to pick and choose.
Superfluous.
And it makes Ural just a giant threat on the board that you, as a collective team, have to figure out, what are we going to do about this? And Ural also is built kind of like an Enchantress deck, because you're generally running Ural as your main Voltron target. You're not really going to be putting auras on anything else unless you absolutely have to.
In an emergency.
But you do play the Enchantress creatures to draw cards. You do play some of the the hate on the board. You can play equipment Ural because he has effective hexproof and is just a scary threat. He's also in Naya colors, which means which is red, white, and green.
Extra combats,
you get green for ramp, you get white for removal. You have kind of the whole suite there.
Yeah. Ural is just a very aggressive deck in terms of Voltron. And that's kind of the Voltron theme, is I'm going to take the offensive and just try and kill everybody before they kill me.
Yeah. And the thing is with Voltron is It's not considered a highly competitive deck strictly because it only wins off of combat, but it is one of those decks where it's like, I gotta hit fast, I gotta play fast, I gotta smack fast before they can build up and stop me. And because of that, the deck, it's fun. It's really fun to assemble a 49/49 trample, haste, lifelink,
Flyer,
flying,
hexproof.
keyword soup.
Yeah.
But it can be hard to win with.
It can, because it's one of those things where your opponents are like, all right, I gotta kill you. I gotta kill you before you even do anything remotely close.
Also, generally, you're only hitting
pieces.
one person with it.
Yeah.
So that's about like the downside of Voltron, but don't let that deter you. It's super fun.
It's
and if
a
you have a lot of
great
equipment
strategy.
lying around, then give it a shot. I mean, there's no harm in trying it.
Go for it.
And they also just printed a Kiri in Zendikar, and I think I mentioned that I was building that deck a couple episodes ago, or last episode. They're supporting it.
Yeah. Do it.
Do it.
And now it's time to pull from the knowledge pool. Tips to make Commander games more fun and more healthy.
Hey, Jason.
What's up?
I want to build a tribal deck now that we've talked about it, and I'm thinking about building cephalids. How do I find how many cephalids there are?
I don't know. Go to the library? No, all jokes aside, go to the Gatherer, gatherer.wizards.com, put a link in the description, and click on Advanced Search. Advanced Search will let you search for anything to basically what power the creature is, what creature types there are, is
flavor
the creature by flavor text, what rarity it is, what set it came out in, basically any characteristic of a Magic card that you can think of, you can search for in the Gatherer Advanced Search. And so I really, really encourage you to go check it out, and it'll help you search for cards that you're building for your new decks.
If you need jank, you can find jank.
You can find lots of jank.
All right, before we pass the turn to you, Jason, what are you doing in magic related stuff?
I've been kind of stagnant lately in terms of deck building and playing. I've mostly been playing on Arena. I've been playing a new homebrew Torbran Brawl deck that I made.
Ooh.
That just basically just plays a lot of like 1/1 creatures and just swings in. And the new card Roiling Vortex is a really big bomb in that deck. It's crazy.
Sounds very Jason of you.
Burn! What are you doing?
Well, I just finished building Kaza Royal Shaper, which turned out to be a great success. So I guess at the moment, I'm trying to figure out what my next deck is going to be. I've got like maybe 5 candidates, and I can't really afford to build 5 decks right now. So I'm just going to tune in on Kaza a little bit and figure out what X spells I like the best.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Is one of them Mowu?
Do you want me to build Mowu?
That means that wasn't one of the candidates. You disappoint me.
Jason, you build Mowu, and Mowu Voltron. Do it.
Okay.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. I know Jason finished his Sisei finally, and it performed well.
Yes and no. It was hit and miss. It either wins or it doesn't, which I guess you can say about literally any Magic deck.
Well, the one thing that I didn't see coming with the way he built his Sisei deck is it does have an answer for mostly everything, which kind of it kind of bothers me, but it's the way it's supposed to be.
If I have Wooburg up, I'm gonna ruin your plans.
Yeah, I was playing Teysa Karlov, and I was about to sacrifice something, and he tutored for, was it?
Kunoros.
Yeah, Kunoros.
Another good boy, yeah!
Yeah, man, we're really honing in on the good boys. Where's our cat love?
We talked about a cat deck.
Okay, fair.
Kemba is a good boy.
But yeah, and it shut my whole deck down for 5 mana instant speed. So it's doing well. He's got to find more answers for more things, but I would say that it's doing what it was supposed to. So
for sure. So yeah, feel free to leave in the comment section what deck that you are working on, and don't forget to leave us a like and a subscribe. And feel free to check out our podcast on other platforms. If you're watching on YouTube, check us out on Spotify. If you're checking us out on Spotify, feel free to watch the audio podcast on YouTube so that you can see what cards we're talking about.
Yeah. And don't forget to hit the bell if you're interested in our content. We post every 2 weeks. And hopefully we'll be on iTunes soon. I mean, that's the plan at least.
We're working on it. All right, so that will wrap it up, and we'll see you next time on Untap.
Upkeep.
Bye.
All right, in the Halloween spirit, we're gonna open up some packs. I got an original Innistrad pack.
Eldritch Moon here. Stop.
I love that sound. I don't know why.
Alright.
All right.
I'll stop at my uncommons.
Yeah, same. Man, I don't think I've opened an Innistrad pack before. This is weird. All right.
I got Geist of the Lonely Vigil.
Mausoleum Guard.
Blood Mist.
Midnight Haunting.
Dusk Feaster.
Full Moon's Rise. Right. Oh, yeah. All right, ready? Yep. 3, 2, 1.
You got a good card.
You got... That was one of my first Magic cards, actually.
Nice.
All right, let's see it. Oh, wow.
Okay. I got Assembled Alphas.
Is there a foil? There's a foil. Do you have a foil?
No, but I have the Transform card.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I got Smoldering Werewolf, and Assembled Alphas was my rare.
Oh, it got me.
Yeah,
I forgot.
You got a Transform card.
I forgot that they had those in... Okay, got it.
Nice.
Ulvenwald Mystics.
Happy Halloween!
Happy Halloween. Stay safe. The big scary man, Omnath, is now gone, so...
I didn't pull a Mowu.